She started sleeping in my bed, with my husband, before I ever moved out. Not after a separation. Not after a suitcase. Not after a single conversation where we agreed it was over or even had a fight. While my clothes were still in the drawers. While my toothbrush was still by the sink. While my name was still on the mortgage. And while I was still sending him private messages to keep the spark in romance while I was away for work. And the worst part is, the first time I saw it, it wasn't private. I wasn't alone. I didn't stumble into it quietly. I walked straight into it with witnesses. My flight landed early. The kind of early that feels like a small miracle when you've been living out of airport lounges and hotel rooms all week. I stopped by the office to drop my bag and clear a few things. I ran into Mark and Priya, 2 colleagues who'd been on the same deal with me for weeks. We were wiped. End of quarter. End of week. Everybody had that Friday night edge where you just want to feel normal for a few hours. Mark said, "We should get dinner. Anywhere that doesn't have a lobby bar." Priya said, "Somewhere with real glasses." And without thinking, I said, "We can go to mine." Mine. It felt good to say it out loud, like I still had something that was mine. We grabbed takeout on the way. We joked in the car about a client who'd said the word synergy 17 times in one call. We were still laughing when I unlocked my front door. My heels were still on. My coat was half buttoned. My bag was still on my shoulder. The lights were on inside. That was the first thing that registered. Not a welcoming glow. More like someone had been living. Then footsteps. Not his. Hers. Sienna walked down the stairs slowly, like she had all the time in the world. Wearing a robe. My robe. Bare legs. Hair loose. No embarrassment. No panic. The face of a woman who'd been told she belonged. She froze when she saw us. All 3 of us. My colleagues went silent behind me. I felt it, that professional pause. That instinct people have when they realize they've just walked into something personal and vicious. Sienna's eyes flicked from me to Mark to Priya and back to me again. "Oh," she said casually. "Hi." I didn't move. I didn't speak. Because my brain was still trying to process why another woman was standing in my house, in my robe, on a Friday night, like she belonged there. Then Cole appeared at the top of the stairs, phone in his hand, camera light still on. He looked down at the scene and laughed. "Well," he said, smiling, "this is awkward." Mark's mouth opened slightly, then shut. Priya's eyes went hard in a way I recognized. Priya didn't do confusion. She did assessment. Cole walked down a few steps, still filming, still relaxed. "You weren't supposed to be back until Sunday," he said, amused, like I'd shown up early to a surprise party. I finally found my voice. "Who is that?" Cole glanced at Mark and Priya like they were an inconvenience. "Wow," he said. "You brought guests." Mark cleared his throat. "Natalie, we can just know," Cole said lightly, holding up a hand. "It's fine. They should probably meet her." Meet her. Sienna adjusted the belt of my robe like she was tightening a crown. "Hi," she said to them. "I'm Sienna. No last name. No apology. No shame." Cole gestured toward me like I was a prop. "This is Natalie," he said. "My wife. Well, technically." My chest tightened. Priya said, flatly, "Technically?" Cole shrugged. "She travels a lot." Then he smiled at Mark and Priya like he was charming, and he said, "Don't worry. She doesn't really live here. She just pays for it." The silence after that wasn't awkward. It was violent. The kind of silence where you can hear the refrigerator hum and the blood moving in your ears. Mark stared at Cole like he couldn't believe a grown man had just said that out loud. Priya's voice cut through the air. "Did you just humiliate your wife in front of her colleagues in her own house?" Cole laughed. "It's a joke." Sienna smiled like she'd won something. Cole lifted his phone a little higher, camera still on, and he said, "This is actually perfect. I was about to go live. This is real life, guys. No filters." That's when I realized. He wanted witnesses. He wanted me embarrassed in front of people who mattered to me. Because if I reacted, if I snapped, if I screamed, he'd get to point and say, "See, she's unstable. She's dramatic. She's the problem." So I did what I'd been trained to do. I got calm. I set the takeout down gently on the entry table. I looked at Cole and said, "Steady, turn the camera off." Cole tilted his head. "Why?" "Because I'm not content," I said. Sienna laughed softly. "He's an influencer," she said. Like that explained anything. Priya took one step forward. "Turn it off." Cole blinked at her like he'd just noticed she existed. Then he smiled that smug smile he used in his videos. "Who are you?" Priya didn't flinch. "Someone who's going to remember this." Cole's smile widened. "Cool. Leave a comment." Mark's jaw tightened. "You're filming in her house." Cole shrugged. "It's my house too." Mark stared at him. "Then why are you acting proud?" Cole's eyes flicked to me, then back to Mark. "Bro," he said, respectfully, "you don't know our marriage." Mark's expression darkened. "Respectfully, I know a man standing in another man's home acting like it's a studio set." Cole laughed. "Cute." I raised the hand slightly. "Mark, Priya, give me 5 minutes." Priya's eyes held mine. "Natalie." 5 minutes, I repeated calm. Priya didn't love it, but she nodded once. "Text me," she said, "if you want us back in." Cole watched them walk out like he'd just cleared a stage. Then he turned to me and said, "So, that was dramatic." I stared at him. "Take her robe off." Sienna's smile widened. "Excuse me." "My robe," I said. "Take it off." Cole's eyes narrowed. "Natalie." "No," I said. "You don't get to say my name like you're the victim. You let a stranger wear my clothes in my house." Sienna crossed her arms. "I'm not a stranger," she said. "I'm his girlfriend." Girlfriend, like it was a title you could just claim. My stomach lurched. Cole spread his hands. "Okay," he said. "So now everyone's caught up." I said, "Get her out." Cole stepped closer. His voice dropped, softer, more deliberate. "Careful," he said. There it was. The warning. Sienna watched him with admiration like that word was foreplay. "Careful about what?" I asked. Cole leaned in, close enough that his breath warmed my cheek. "You don't want a mess," he whispered. "You don't want people digging." My throat tightened, because he didn't have to say the words. He never did. When I was 20, I caused a car accident that killed someone. No alcohol. No drugs. No dramatic headline. Just 1 second, one glance down. One impact that split my life in half. My parents hired lawyers. We settled. I pled to a reduced charge. The record was sealed. The settlement was confidential. Legally, it was done. Emotionally, it was a scar I carried everywhere. Years ago, on a night when I thought I could trust him, I told Cole. I told him because I loved him, because he was my husband, because I believed marriage meant safety. He held my hand. He told me I wasn't a monster. What he didn't tell me was that he'd just been given a lever. Now he used it like a leash. Cole straightened and said, louder, "Let's not do this in front of guests." "You already did," I said. He shrugged. "They're gone now." Sienna smirked. "So what's the plan?" she asked him, like I wasn't there. Cole nodded toward the hallway. "Natalie will take the guest room," he said. "Sienna stays." I stared at him. "You just assign me a room." Cole's voice turned gentle in that false way. "It's practical," he said. "You're barely here." "I'm here now, and you'll be gone Monday," he said. "This isn't a marriage. It's a schedule." Sienna laughed. "Honestly, it's kinda sad," she said. "All that money and no life." I looked at her. "Take off my robe." Sienna's smile hardened. "No." Cole's eyes flashed. "Natalie." I looked at him. "If she doesn't take it off, I will." Cole's voice dropped again. "Careful." My chest tightened. I hated myself for it, but I heard it like a gun cocking. So I did what he expected. I swallowed my pride. I turned away. I walked upstairs. Behind me, I heard Sienna laugh, soft and satisfied. "See," she said to him, "sweetly she knows." That night, I slept in the guest room. I didn't cry. Not yet. I stared at the ceiling and listened to footsteps above me. Their footsteps. In my bedroom. I heard the bed creak. I heard laughter. And I told myself I would fix it. I just didn't know yet what fixing it would cost. The next morning, Cole acted like it was settled. He made coffee. He sat at the kitchen island in gym shorts, scrolling on his phone, smiling at his own reflection in the dark screen like he was checking his angles. Sienna walked around my house barefoot like she was touring property she planned to buy. She opened cabinets. She rearranged my pantry. She left her perfume on my bathroom counter like a flag. Cole watched it with pride. Like he'd finally found someone who stayed home and worshipped him. When I walked into the kitchen, Cole glanced up. Morning. Sienna sipped coffee from my mug. The one with the chipped rim I always avoided. I said, "Where are my keys?" Sienna pointed to a bowl by the door. "I put them there," she said. I stared at her. "Don't touch my things." She smiled. "Your things are everywhere," she said. "It's messy." Cole laughed softly. "She's not wrong." I looked at Cole. "How long?" He blinked. "How long what? How long has she been sleeping in my bed?" Sienna answered like she was proud. "Since October. It was January." My stomach went cold. Cole said, "Babe, don't do the calendar thing. 4 months," I said. Cole shrugged. "You were always gone." "I was working," I said. Cole's face tightened, and I was alone. "You weren't alone," I said, looking at Sienna. Cole's smile returned. "This is what I mean," he said. "You always want to win. You always want to be right. It's exhausting." "I'm not trying to win," I said. "I'm trying to understand why my husband thinks this is normal." Sienna leaned back in her chair. "Because you made him lonely," she said. I stared at her. "You're in my robe." "It's fabric," she said. "You're not using it." Cole's eyes sharpened. "Drop it," he said. I held his gaze. "Or what?" Cole's smile came back, slow and satisfied. "You don't want to play moral police," he said. "Not with your history." There it was again. My shame, dragged into the kitchen like a third person. Cole stood up and walked closer, lowering his voice. "You push me," he whispered, "and I talk." Sienna watched like she loved the power. I felt my throat tighten. So I did what they wanted. I went quiet. "Fine," I said. Cole's smile widened. He turned his head toward Sienna and said, "Casual, see. She knows." That became the pattern. And they didn't just do it in private. They made sure I felt it everywhere. The first Monday after that, I was in the back of a black car on the way to the airport when my phone buzzed with a notification. Cole posted a reel. It was him in our kitchen, smiling, making one of those stupid protein coffees, telling his followers how to stay grounded. The camera panned slightly. Sienna was behind him, wearing one of my sweaters, barefoot, stirring something at my stove. He kissed her cheek on camera like it was the most natural thing in the world. The caption said, "Home is who shows up." My stomach flipped, because I had been showing up. I just showed up with boarding passes and deadlines, not soft lighting and camera angles. An hour later, Priya texted me. "I just saw something on your husband's page. Are you okay?" I stared at my phone like it was a trap. I replied, "I'm handling it." I wasn't. That week, I got home Thursday night and found a new sign on the inside of my front door. Acrylic, cute handwriting, "Please remove shoes. No loud calls after 9 p.m. Guest room towels are in the hall closet." Guest room. It wasn't even subtle. Sienna came around the corner and smiled like she was proud of herself. "I made house rules," she said. "It'll help the energy." I looked at her. "You made house rules for my house." She shrugged. "You're more like a visitor," she said. "Visitors need guidance." I felt a flash of heat behind my eyes. Cole stepped in behind her, phone in his hand, recording again like he couldn't help himself. He smiled. "Babe, don't be tense," he said. "It's just structure. You love structure." I stared at the phone. "Turn it off." Cole's smile sharpened. "Why?" he asked. "Sweetly, you scared of being seen?" Sienna giggled. "Maybe she's camera shy," she said. or conscience shy. I felt my throat close. Cole stepped closer and lowered his voice, so quiet it was almost affectionate. "Don't," he whispered. "Not tonight." He didn't have to explain what he meant. I went upstairs without another word, and that's exactly what they wanted. Not because I was weak, because they were testing how far they could erase me before I stopped being recognizable, even to myself. 2 weeks later, I came home and my side of the closet was gone. Not empty, gone. Sienna had hung a clothing rack in the master bedroom like a boutique display. Her dresses, her heels, her perfume lined up like trophies. My suits were in boxes in the garage. My favorite blazer, the one I wore when I needed to feel untouchable, was folded like trash. I stood there staring at the boxes. Sienna appeared in the doorway of my bedroom. "My bedroom." "You didn't need the space," I said. Sienna smiled. "It's not about need," she said. "It's about reality." "Reality," I repeated. She nodded. "Reality is you're a wallet with a boarding pass." My stomach dropped. "Say that again," I said. Sienna didn't blink. "Wallet," she repeated. "Boarding pass. You fund, you leave. You come back and act surprised." Cole walked in behind her like a man arriving to watch his own play. He leaned against the doorframe and said, "If you want a life here, be here." I stared at him. "If you want a marriage, don't move your girlfriend into our bed." Cole laughed like that was childish. "You think marriage is a bed," he said. "Marriage is presence." "And fraud," I said, because the word was starting to form in my mouth like a blade. Cole's eyes narrowed. Sienna tilted her head. "You say the ugliest words," she said. "For someone with your little secret." There it was. Even she knew. I swallowed hard. Cole stepped forward and said, softly, "Don't make me fix you." "Fix me," I repeated, incredulous. Cole smiled. "You know what I mean," he said. "Your family already thinks you're stressed. One little story and they'll start worrying for real." My stomach went cold, because it wasn't just betrayal at home. It was containment. It was social control. It was reputation sabotage. And when you're in my world, reputation is oxygen. A few days later, he proved it. My managing director called me into his office. Not angry. Careful. He shut the door and said, "Natalie, are you okay?" I felt a cold wave hit my chest. He hesitated. "Someone raised a concern," he said, "that you've been under unusual stress." Unusual stress. My mouth went dry. "I've been on the road," I said. "We're closing a deal." He nodded, still careful. "I know," he said. "This isn't performance. It's welfare." Welfare. My stomach churned. I realized Cole had reached beyond my family. He'd reached into my professional world. He'd planted the same narrative there, too. I forced a small smile. "I'm fine," I said. "Someone's trying to create noise." The managing director watched me for a long beat. Then he said quietly, "If you need time, take it. If you need help, tell me." I walked out with my face composed and my hands shaking. When I got into the elevator, Priya was there. She looked at me and said, "It's him." I didn't answer. Priya's jaw tightened. "I saw your MD," she said. "He's spooked. This is spilling into the floor." I stared at the elevator doors and said the truth I'd been swallowing. "He has leverage." Priya looked at me. "What kind?" I swallowed. "Something from years ago," I said. "Something that would end me if he framed it right." Priya's voice went low. "Natalie," she said, "he's not just cheating. He's holding you hostage." I didn't argue, because that's what it felt like. Then came another beat that made my stomach drop. I got home one Thursday and found my front door key didn't work. I tried again. Then again. My stomach dropped. The door opened from inside. Sienna stood there smiling, holding my key ring in her hand. "Oh," she said. "We changed the locks." I stared at her. "You what?" Sienna shrugged. "It's safer," she said. "Cole has a lot of followers. You never know." "Give me my keys," I said. She held them just out of reach. You can use the keypad, she said. Cole can set you a code. Set me a code. In my own home. Cole appeared behind her, filming of course. He smiled at the camera. Guys, he said, this is what happens when you marry a corporate robot. She thinks a deed is a relationship. I looked at the phone and said, turn it off. Cole smiled. Or what? I felt the heat rise. Then he lowered his voice. Don't, he whispered. I'm in a generous mood. I stared at him. You changed the locks. Cole shrugged. You're not stable, he said, loudly enough for the camera. You fly in angry. You accuse. You spiral. Spiral. That word again. Sienna smiled like she was pleased with the script. Cole leaned closer to me and said, softly, now go upstairs and be quiet. I wanted to scream. I didn't. I went upstairs. That was the moment I realized how trapped I actually was. Why would a woman who closes deals worth hundreds of millions let a man talk to her like a dog? The answer is shame. Shame makes smart women behave like captives. Because there's one thing worse than humiliation in your home. Humiliation in public with your name attached to it forever. I learned that at 20, and Cole knew it. He used it to keep me on a leash while he dismantled my life. And then, right when I thought it couldn't get worse, he committed the mistake that turned my fear into rage. I got a credit alert in an airport. New account opened. Business line of credit. In my name. I stopped walking. I called the number immediately. The representative read me the details, board, address on file, my house, email on file, Coles. My heart pounded. Close it, I said. Flag it. Freeze everything. We can mark it suspicious, she said, but you'll need to file a report. I hung up and felt the world tilt. Because that wasn't emotional betrayal anymore. That was a crime. I flew home that night. No warning. I walked into my house and found Cole at the kitchen island with his laptop open, smiling at his screen, editing content. Sienna was on the couch, feet tucked under her, scrolling like she owned the air. I didn't even take my coat off. Did you open a line of credit in my name? I asked. Cole looked up slowly, then smiled. Oh, he said. That. Sienna sat up, interested like it was a fun story. It's for the business, Cole said. Relax. You used my identity, I said. Cole shrugged. It's our household. It's fraud, I said. Cole's smile sharpened. Careful, he said, enjoying it. Do you want to make this legal? You already did, I said. Cole stood up. Natalie, he said, calm. You're not in a position to threaten me. Sienna smiled like she loved watching someone get pinned. I stared at him. You're blackmailing me. Cole lifted his eyebrows slightly like he was amused. I'm managing risk, he said. That's what you do for a living, right? That's when the anger turned clean. Because now it wasn't just betrayal. It was criminal. And criminal was something I could punish without giving him my emotions. I looked at him and said, okay. Cole's eyes narrowed. Okay what? Okay, I repeated. Do what you want. Sienna smiled, satisfied. Good, she said. Because honestly, the guest room really suits you. Cole watched me like he was waiting for the explosion. I didn't give him one. I walked upstairs, locked the guest room door, and opened my laptop. I made 3 calls. A family law attorney, a civil attorney, and a forensic accountant. Not a gentle one. Not someone who'd tell me to heal. A shark. The kind of people who don't care about your feelings. They care about evidence. When my civil attorney asked why I'd tolerated it, I didn't give her a speech. I said one sentence. He has leverage, I said. What kind? She asked. I took a breath. A sealed record, I said. From a death I caused when I was 20. She didn't flinch. She didn't pity me. She said, has he threatened to expose it? Yes, I said. In writing, she asked. No. She paused. Then we're going to make him, she said. The forensic accountant started with the basics. Bank statements, business filings, address registrations, payment processors. He called me 2 days later. Your husband is sloppy, he said. I sat in a conference room with my phone pressed to my ear, heart beating hard. How sloppy? I asked. He's using your identity and your address in places he shouldn't, he said. And his income reporting doesn't match his lifestyle. I stared at the wall. Meaning, he said, the moment anyone looks, his whole freedom brand turns into fraud. The family lawyer asked me, "Do you want the house?" I almost laughed. "I want my life back," I said. She nodded. "We can get you exclusive use," she said, "but we need proof he's unsafe financially." I said, "He opened credit in my name." Her eyes sharpened. "Good," she said. "That's not good for you, but it's good for court." Then came the pivot. Not the filing. Not the lawyers. The pivot was a sentence on a court docket I'd been too ashamed to read for years. I opened the sealed file. The actual disposition. And I realized something that made my stomach drop in a completely different way. He wasn't holding my secret. He was holding my fear. That's when I stopped being trapped. And to make it real, I did one irreversible thing immediately. I told Priya the truth. All of it. Not details for gossip. Just enough that if Cole tried to leak it, I wouldn't be blindsided. I wouldn't be alone. I wouldn't be isolated. Priya listened, quiet, then said, "Okay. So he thinks he has a grenade, but it's a dud." I swallowed hard. "It's still ugly." Priya's voice was blunt. "Ugly doesn't mean powerful," she said. "And he's about to learn the difference." Now all I needed was him saying it on record, so I set a trap. I waited for a night when Cole was feeling bold, when Sienna was feeling smug, when they had people over again. They loved audiences. They thought audiences made them safe. That Friday, I came home to find Sienna hosting a little gathering in my living room. Women in glossy outfits, ring light on, wine glasses on my table. Sienna was doing one of those fake empowerment talks, talking about feminine energy and not shrinking. She was literally not shrinking in my house. Cole was in the kitchen filming his own content, acting like the king of the home. And on a whiteboard near the dining table in thick marker were words that made my stomach go cold. "After Natalie breaks, we announce." They weren't waiting for me to leave. They were trying to break me first, so my exit looked like a collapse. That was their story. The crazy wife finally snapped. The calm man rebuilt his life with a better woman. I walked into the kitchen and said quietly, "We need to talk." Cole didn't stop filming. "Later." "No," I said. "Now." He sighed dramatically, turned the camera off, and smiled like he was granting me time. "What?" I let my voice shake just enough to bait him. "I know about the accounts," I said. "I know you use my name. I know you're calling my family and my job telling them I'm unstable." Cole's eyes narrowed. So stop," I said. Cole laughed. "Or what? I'll go to the police," I said softly. Cole's smile widened slowly. "You won't," he said. "You don't know that," I said. He leaned closer. "Yes, I do," he whispered. "Because if you go legal, I go public." My heart hammered. "What does that mean?" I asked. Cole's eyes glittered. "I know what you did when you were 20, he said. "I know exactly what you are." There it was. My phone in my pocket was recording. I let my breath shake. "That's sealed," I said. Cole laughed softly. "Sealed doesn't mean invisible," he said. "It means you paid to hide it. And people love hidden things." Then he said the line I needed. "You want to ruin my life," he whispered. "I'll ruin yours. I'll make sure your job finds out. Your family, your friends. I'll make you the villain. So sit down, be quiet, and let me run my house." Sienna appeared in the doorway, smiling like she was proud. Cole straightened and said, "Louder, so. Are we clear?" I nodded once, like he'd won. Cole smirked. He turned to Sienna and said casually, "See? She knows." I walked upstairs, locked the guest room door, and sent the recording to my attorney. She replied 2 minutes later. Perfect. Then she sent another message. "We're going nuclear." The court moved fast. Because when you bring clean audio of extortion tied to identity fraud, it stops being messy marriage drama. It becomes a crime. We filed for an emergency injunction. No harassment, no threats, no attempts to publicize sealed matters, no further financial activity in my name. Violations would be contempt. The order hit his inbox like a brick. Cole called me 12 times the day it was served. I didn't answer. Sienna texted me from an unknown number. You can't do this. We live there. I stared at it and thought, you live there like a parasite lives in a host. I didn't reply. Then we hit the business. Not with rage, with paperwork. The forensic accountant prepared a report. Clean, boring, lethal. My civil attorney drafted notices to his payment processors and platforms. The kind of notices that make companies freeze everything until verification. My family lawyer filed for exclusive use of the marital residence based on documented fraud and harassment. Cole had always called me cold. Cold wins. Over the next several weeks, everything he'd built started collapsing at once. The day it started, I wasn't even in the house. I was in a conference room, phone on silent, while my attorney executed the first cut. The locks were changed. Legal notice posted. Exclusive use order attached. Cole and Sienna came home from brunch to a dead keypad and a paper taped to the front door. Cole called me 37 times. I didn't answer. Sienna left a voicemail, voice shaking, trying to sound confident. Natalie, she said, this is insane. You can't just lock us out. This is our home. I listened once, then deleted it. Then his payment processor froze his accounts pending verification. Then the fraudulent line of credit in my name was flagged and closed. Then another account froze. Then his brand partnerships got emails they couldn't ignore. And because I wanted one last, clean, witness squeeze before the public takedown, I let him think he still had room to humiliate me. Cole went live that night from somewhere else, a cheap-looking rental with bad lighting. He looked into the camera and did the wounded man routine. I'm going through something, he said. Sometimes the person you marry isn't the person you thought. His comments flooded with sympathy. Then he smiled that thin little smile and said, some people have skeletons, and they think money can hide them forever. My phone lit up immediately. Priya. He's baiting you. Mark. Are you seeing this? My MD. Everything okay? Cole thought he'd found a way around the injunction by hinting instead of saying. He thought he was clever. He wasn't, because hinting is still a threat when it's directed. And more importantly, he'd just given me the final ingredient I needed, a public pattern. A judge loves patterns. Cole's business didn't just make him money, it made him arrogant, and arrogance makes people careless. He showed up at my hotel the next night. I didn't tell him where I was. He found it because he still had access to my email. That was my mistake, but it was also useful. He knocked on my door like he owned my time. I opened it with the chain still on. Cole looked wrecked, not heartbroken, panicked. You did this, he said, voice shaking. I stared at him. You did this, I said. He tried to push the door. The chain held. Open it, he snapped. I didn't move. His eyes darted down the hallway like he was suddenly aware of witnesses. Cameras, hotel staff. He lowered his voice. Natalie, he said, stop. This is too far. I smiled slightly. Too far was you standing in my foyer, calling me a paycheck in front of my colleagues. Cole's jaw flexed. You were never here. I nodded. And you still couldn't behave. He hissed. You think you're so perfect. I met his eyes. No, I said. I think you're sloppy. He flinched. Then he tried the old move. I'll talk, he whispered. I held his gaze. Go ahead, I said. Try it again. It worked great for you last time. His face twitched. He couldn't threaten me anymore without burning himself, and he knew it. He backed away slowly, like a man realizing the room has cameras. Then he muttered, You're nothing without me. I smiled. You're nothing without my shame, I said, and I just took it back. Cole's face tightened with rage. He turned and walked away. The public reckoning happened on his stage. Cole had planned a big paid event that weekend. a masterclass, a room full of his followers. He'd rented a small event space and hyped it like a career milestone. He called it the Freedom Blueprint. He didn't know I had the receipts folder. He didn't know I had the audio. He didn't know I had a court order. And he didn't know authorities had a reason to be close enough to hear him panic. I arrived 10 minutes before he went live. I didn't walk in like a scorned wife. I walked in like an auditor, hair smooth, suit tailored, face controlled. Cole was on stage with a mic clipped to his shirt, smiling, practicing his opening lines. Sienna sat in the front row filming him, wearing that smug expression like she was about to be crowned. One of Cole's biggest sponsors had sent a representative, a woman in a blazer, sitting 2 seats away from Sienna, notebook in her lap. Cole had bragged about it online. Big brands are watching, he'd said. He wanted their approval like oxygen. Sienna spotted me first and leaned toward the sponsor rep like she was gossiping. She pointed at me and whispered something with a smirk. The sponsor rep's eyes flicked to me, then away, unimpressed. Cole saw me and his smile faltered. He walked toward me quickly, voice low. "What are you doing here?" he hissed. I smiled. "Watching," I said. "You're not invited." "I bought a ticket," I said. "With my credit." Like everything else, his face tightened. "Leave." I tilted my head. "Make me." Cole glanced around, aware of eyes. He leaned in. "Don't," he whispered. "Don't do this." I held his gaze. "You did this," I said. "You just didn't think I'd be in the room when it ended." Cole's face went pale for a split second. Then he forced a smile and walked back to the stage. He grabbed the mic like oxygen. "All right," he said brightly. "Tonight we're talking about freedom. About not letting other people control your life." The irony was almost funny. He started pacing. He warmed up the crowd. He told stories about haters and people who try to sabotage you. Sienna nodded along like a supportive partner. The sponsor rep watched, face blank. 15 minutes in, he was building momentum. That's when my attorney stood up. Not me. My attorney, in a simple black suit, face calm and bored. She walked toward the front with a folder in her hand. Cole's smile tightened. "Yeah." He chuckled into the mic. "Looks like we've got—" My attorney didn't smile. She handed papers to the event manager. Then she handed another set to a man in the back wearing a badge. Cole's voice faltered. "What is this?" he snapped, trying to keep it playful. The screen behind him flickered. Cole had planned to show slides with motivational quotes. Instead, the screen lit up with a timeline. Dates, accounts, filings, and one line at the bottom in bold: identity fraud, extortion, tax evasion. The room went dead. Cole turned, eyes wide, and for the first time in my life he looked afraid. He grabbed the mic, voice rising. "This is sabotage," he said. "This is my crazy wife." He stopped mid-sentence, because my audio started playing through the speakers, clear, calm. His voice. "You want to ruin my life. I'll ruin yours. I'll make sure your job finds out. Your family. Your friends. I'll make you the villain. So sit down, be quiet, and let me run my house." The room froze. The sponsor rep's pen stopped moving. Sienna's smile collapsed like a mask. Cole lunged toward the tech table, shouting, "Turn it off." It didn't stop, because the tech table wasn't his anymore. The event manager stepped between him and the equipment. Then the badge in the back moved forward. Then another. One of them approached the stage and said, calmly, "Cole Harrison." Cole's mouth opened. "This is a civil thing," he stammered. "This is." The agent didn't blink. "Sir, turn around." Sienna shot to her feet, voice sharp and shaking. "This is insane." She set him up. The agent didn't look at her. "Ma'am, sit down." She didn't. She lifted her phone to film, desperate to turn it into content. Even at the end, she thought the camera would save her. The sponsor rep turned her head slightly and said, quietly but clearly, "Put the phone down." Sienna blinked, shocked someone spoke to her like that. Sienna snapped, "Who even are you?" The sponsor rep didn't raise her voice. The person who just watched your boyfriend confess to extortion on a speaker system, she said. Sit down. The room murmured. Sienna's face flushed. She lowered her phone. Cole's eyes found me in the crowd. Wild, panicked. Natalie, he barked. Stop this. I didn't move. He tried again, voice cracking. You're destroying me. I looked at him and said, Calm, no. I paused just long enough to land it. Your ego destroyed you, I said. I just stopped paying for the cleanup. Cole's face twisted. You think you're better than me. I smiled slightly. I think you needed my shame to feel powerful, I said. And now you don't have it. Then he did the dumbest thing he could do. He tried to detonate my secret in public. You killed someone, he shouted. The room gasped. There it was. The grenade. Except he didn't understand something. The moment he tried to use it publicly, he stopped being a husband. He became a violator of a court order. My attorney stepped forward, calm as ice. Your Honor granted an injunction, she said clearly. Any attempt to publicize sealed records will be met with immediate contempt action. This event is being recorded. Proceed carefully. Cole's mouth opened, then closed. For the first time, he realized his weapon was fake. It looks scary until you pull the trigger and the whole room sees it's just a prop. The agents turned him around. Handcuffs clicked. And in that sound, something inside me unclenched. Not joy, release. Sienna stood there shaking, then spun toward me, eyes bright with rage. You're evil, she hissed. I looked at her. You wore my robe, I said quietly. Don't use that word on me. Sienna's lip curled. He said you were never here. I nodded. And you still couldn't manage to be a decent person in an empty house. She flinched. Then she tried one last line, desperate. You're going to be alone. I smiled. I've been alone, I said. I was just paying for the privilege. She stared at me, then shoved through the crowd and fled, heels clicking too fast like she was running from a fire. After that, it was paperwork. Cole was charged. Not for cheating. For the things that actually matter when you're done with someone. Identity fraud. Extortion. Wire fraud tied to business accounts. Tax charges that stacked once professionals looked at his filings. He took a plea deal. Not a slap on the wrist. Real time. His business collapsed because it was built on arrogance and shortcuts, and the moment someone pulled the thread, it unraveled fast. His audience turned on him even faster. The same people who laughed when he called me a paycheck now made videos calling him a fraud. His sponsors dropped him, including the one in the room. His platforms froze his monetization. His social death was public and permanent. And for a man who lived on admiration, that was worse than jail. I didn't make a revenge post. I didn't go live to tell my side. I didn't need strangers to validate what I already knew. I cleaned my credit. I changed my passwords. I reclaimed my house. I returned to my job without his leash around my throat. 3 months later, I sat in a quiet courtroom while Cole stood in front of a judge. Not a dramatic TV judge, a tired, precise one. The judge looked down at the file, then up at Cole, and said, flatly, You treated your wife's privacy like currency. Cole swallowed. The judge continued, voice calm. You attempted to profit from threatening it. That is extortion. Cole's face twitched. The judge's next sentence landed like a door shutting. People who confuse control with entitlement end up here, he said. And they tend to be surprised when consequences don't care about their feelings. Then he gave the sentence that made Cole's knees soften. And when I walked past Cole in the hallway afterward, he whispered, You ruined my life. I looked at him and said, You rented my silence. He blinked, like he didn't understand. I leaned in slightly, voice low, and finished it. And then you got mad when the lease ended. Cole stared at me like he didn't understand the language anymore. I didn't wait for him to. I walked away. That night, the first time I slept in my own bed again, I stared at the ceiling and waited for shame to flood me like it always did. It didn't, because the worst thing I'd ever done wasn't the tool someone used to control me anymore. It was still real, still painful, still mine, but it wasn't his. My name is Natalie, and this is what happened when I was pushed beyond restraint. Please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this story.